Order up!
Welcome to a brand new episode of the Order Up Podcast. Of course, I'm Taryn Williams. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. So, in this podcast, I'm going to be doing a quick review of the Black Widow movie, which is the first Marvel movie we've gotten in a long time since Endgame, the first Marvel movie in 2021. It's been a while, but I just wanted to talk about the movie as a whole. And again, spoiler alert for the movie if you haven't seen it yet. The movie did drop on July 9th. It came out on Disney Plus as well as theaters, so you had two different ways you can get it. So you didn't feel like going to the theaters, you could get it on Disney Plus for the premiere access. And I think it'll be free on Disney Plus. I think in October, I believe. So somewhere at the end of October. I think it's so. If you want to wait till the end of October, you can watch it for free. Watch on Disney Plus, see it at the movies, or you could probably find it online somewhere. Just throwing it out there because we all know how we get down. But so the Black Widow movie takes place actually after the end of Civil War, but before Infinity War. So it's in this weird place of in the Marvel MCU. It was kind of like their love song, their swan song to Natasha Romanoff, aka the Black Widow, played by Scarlett Johansson. This is also her directorial debut in the MCU. So it was like a lot right on it for her. And I know part of the reason I know she was having some issues with Disney because for her contract, she actually got like some percentage of theater sales. So that's why they was having a hard time releasing the movie because in her contract, she was supposed to get like maybe like 10 or 50% of the theatrical release sales. And that was part of her contract. So if they just did it on Disney Plus, that'd be a breach of contract. There's a whole lot of stuff. So that's one of the reasons why it took so long for Black Widow to come out because they had to get that figured out how they were going to release it. But after they figured that out, they released it, and it did pretty well. I think it's in top 5 Marvel releases of all time. I think it did like 80 million its first weekend, or like just over 100. I forget how much it was, but it did really really well. And so yeah, I enjoyed the movie. I think it's okay. Like just kind of, I give it like a 7 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10. It's enjoyable. Like it's a lot of fun. It's different, but again, I think the movie, the way that their story set up, it would have been better if they put it earlier in the MCU timeline because I think it would have fit a little bit if they would have did it before. Like maybe if they would have actually released it right after Endgame, it would have, or right after Civil War, excuse me, it would have made more sense. And then before we knew what happened in Infinity War, before we knew what happened in Endgame, but because we already know that Natasha dies in Endgame, she sacrificed herself so Clint can get the Soul Stone. Her character arc and her development and all her kind of her means of fighting, you kind of lose it because we know she died. It's cool to see it. You get all this, it's very heartfelt, but we know what the end result is. So it's kind of weird, kind of in a weird spot. Really, the movie really sets up Yelena Belova, played by Florence Pugh, who I really love. Like she was the star of the movie, and you really get to see that she's gonna slowly become the next Widow, probably in the Avengers. But she's gonna start off kind of not necessarily against the Avengers, but she's gonna be kind of a anti-hero, I believe, based on the post-credit scene of the movie. But really, the movie shines on Yelena Belova. So how the movie starts, you get a little bit of their backstory when they were in they were in Ohio. It's kind of this some Russian, like a Russian sleeper cell in Ohio. You get a little bit of their backstory, and then you slowly get kind of when they were kids, and then like just some stuff that happened. You see a little bit of the training that Natasha went through in the Red Room when she was like probably like 6 or 7, probably really really young. And so you get to see a little bit of like the indoctrination of her becoming the Black Widow, becoming this assassin. But like kind of what I was saying, like really, Yelena is the star of the movie because really you get to highlight her, get to see how she's gonna be a different widow than Natasha. You get to see like their differences where Natasha was very kind of secluded and kept to herself, and then over time she warmed up. Yelena right off the gate is just like a trash talker. She's a spitfire. She cracks jokes. Like she has some more personality than what Natasha had early on. So that was kind of nice to see. Of course, you meet Red Guardian, which was the Russians' counter to America's Captain America, of course. So he was kind of the Russians' version of that. And we meet Melina, who was like their mom. She was a scientist, and she was a big part of a lot of the science pieces of the Red Room and how that went down. So you kind of meet all of them, and they were this was this family. So the idea of movies like family and kind of remember where you came from and kind of reconnecting bridges and coming back together and forgiveness and all this stuff. So that's kind of what the movie kind of focused on, which again is cool. But again, since we personally know where Natasha's like where her story ends, in Endgame, it's kind of you lose some of the gravity. It's still a fun movie. Like some of the set pieces are really cool, like the when they break Red Guardian out of jail and they had to break them out. There's like a snowstorm and stuff. It's a really cool set piece. It's not super long, but the avalanche that comes after Elena fires a rocket at a guard tower, and of course the echo causes an avalanche, and then the avalanche coming down to destroy the prison cell Red Guardian was in, or like the prison that Red Guardian was in. It's a cool set piece. It looks really nice. One of my biggest gripes of Black Widow was how they used Taskmaster. Because again, in the movie, spoiler, I'm gonna keep saying spoiler. Excuse me. But um they reviewed Taskmaster as the bad guy's movie. I forget the guy's name in the movie. I forget his name. Some German Russian name. Uh, I can't think of his name, but he's like the guy who created the Red Room. And actually, Taskmaster is his daughter. That's kind of big reveal, and it was kind of funny. I was posting about this on Facebook. I knew something was weird with Taskmaster because he didn't talk in any of the Black Widow trailers. If you know Taskmaster, if you play with him on Marvel vs. Capcom 3, if you fought him in the Spider-Man video game, you played those, he talks a lot of shit. Like, he's a big trash talker. That's who he is. Very much like Spider-Man, very much like Deadpool. And so, with him not talking, or with the character not talking, I was like, okay, that's already weird. And come to find out, it was just his daughter who he brainwashed and everything like that. And then actually Natasha actually saves her because in the final fight that they have, so the big, like, one of the big MacGuffins of the movie is like this red vial, which is this antidote to brainwashing. It's like a mixture that cures brainwashing. So Natasha, they're fighting. Natasha ends up punching the vial. It spreads out and it clears her brainwashing. And so then she becomes more of a normal person. And they actually end up saving her in the end after big climactic scene with them falling down, with them like sky fighting, and they're kind of skydiving, and fighting at the same time. Which is actually also a pretty cool set piece. But yeah, I think it was just a fun movie. I think the goal of the movie was gonna be, it was gonna be kind of like a palate cleanser, kind of like what Ant-Man was to Infinity War. I think Black Widow was gonna be a palate cleanser to Endgame, kind of a little bit more relaxed, some jokes, but some really heartfelt moments and things like that. I feel like that's what Black Widow was really going to be. But because it took so long between Black Widow and Endgame, we all kind of been palate cleansed already. So that's why I don't think it hit the way that they wanted to. It's still solid. I also think it's sad, like some of the promos. If you look on Disney Plus for the movie, it says like, "Oh, learn how Natasha becomes Black Widow." But this movie doesn't really talk about how she became the Black Widow. There's like bits and pieces of it, but there's no. It's not like from the very beginning, and you see her training and her first few missions. You just get these little snippets of that. But yeah, and I think one of the funnier moments is after, because one of the opening scenes in the movie is Yelena is on the mission. They're going after this another widow who I guess left the Red Room, who retired or something. She's working on that cure, the brainwashing cure. Finds her, they get into a fight, and she actually uses the cure on Yelena, and she becomes, normal. She's no longer under control of the Red Room, and she takes the vials and she runs. But she sends them to Natasha, but then Natasha ends up finding Yelena, and they kind of meet up. And it's just kind of interesting. They kind of have, that's where the trailer where they see each other and they kind of hand fight a little bit. They take each other's weapons, disarm each other. A lot of counter to each other's counters. And I felt like maybe the movie should have been that. Like the movie should have been maybe a spy versus spy movie in the beginning, and then eventually they kind of come together and realize, okay, there's a bigger problem. The Red Room is still a thing. Like, but it's kind of weird how the story works. But again, it was nice seeing Black Widow again. It's nice seeing them introduce the newer characters. Because Black Widow came into the MCU, she was a solo character. Like she didn't really have any backup or anything like that. But now that we know, Leona. Yelena, that's how you pronounce her name. But after we know her, but we know that Red Guardian, that she's got contact with Red Guardian. Melina's there, and also they save a bunch of Black Widows at the end of the movie. So now there's all these other Black Widows who are out there who are, unbrainwashed and, good people who, Yelena can kind of call on. And also, the Taskmaster character is there too. So yeah, so now, Yelena actually has backup. Where Natasha was really, really solo until, of course, she joined Shield and her and Clint were together and she met Fury and the Avengers and stuff like that. Ilona some people already established, and then if she becomes an Avenger, does that thing, or if she needs help with some other stuff, there's people she can call on. Which I think it's pretty cool. Which I kind of enjoyed that part of it. and then the end credit scene, which is actually connects Black Widow back into Falcon and Winter Soldier. Because actually, in terms of Phase 4, um, Black Widow was supposed to come first, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier was going to begin, a little bit later. But because of the pandemic and everything, Falcon and Winter Soldier got pushed up with WandaVision and Loki, and Black Widow came a little bit later. So it's kind of cool to see like Val, who we see first in Falcon and Winter Soldier, kind of she gets John Walker, and she's building this team of kind of anti-heroes, maybe the Thunderbolts, maybe kind of a Dark Avengers-esque character. We're not really sure, but she's building like kind of these anti-heroes together. And per the end of Black Widow, Elena goes and sees Natasha's grave, her tombstone, and Val's there. And it sounds like they've already been working together for a few years. So clearly, she already got in touch with Elena. They already know each other, and they set up that in the Hawkeye movie, Elena is going after Hawkeye because Val says, "Oh, you want to go after the guy that killed your sister?" And then it's a picture of Hawkeye, which is setting up the Hawkeye Disney Plus series. So I'm very curious to how that turns out. Florence Pugh did an amazing job as Yelena. Just some of the jokes I love, like the hero pose joke that she does. It's like you're a poser. You drop your hand, you flip your hair. Like, why do you do that? Like, why do you flip your? It was such a funny moment. It's such a good, it's so well done. Like, just you get the joke, like you understand it, and then she actually does that in the movie. She's like, I'm such a poser. Like, I don't get this. It's really fun. It's a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. I think Black Widow is fine. Like if you compare it to some of the other really solid MCU movies, like yeah, like it doesn't compare. Like a lot of people were expecting Winter Soldier esque stuff, but no, like Winter Soldier is one of the goats. Like it's one of the best Marvel movies I think that they made because you could take out the Marvel properties in Winter Soldier and make Winter Soldier an action movie, and it would still work. Like it would still just work. It's one of the beauties about it. We could take out the Marvel characters, and just it could be some random action movie called Forgotten or some shit, and then you'd be like, "Hey, you saw that movie Forgotten? That's just dope." so, so yeah, a lot of people were expecting that type of action and type of storytelling. We didn't really get that per se. Also, I think a bigger character you meet, Mason. Mason's kind of like the guy who a lot of people thought was gonna be Taskmaster because of how they presented him, because he had like posters and stuff like that. But Mason's basically Natasha's, the guy that gets stuff. She's that person. And I think he's gonna be a bigger play for the Avengers because you think about it now, Tony Stark's dead. And now basically what happened with Wakanda was sad with Bozeman passing away. Black Panther's not gonna be around immediately, so you need someone who can get stuff for the Avengers. And hopefully Clint might, and he said he's a uh I forget the word now. But he's like an independent contractor, so he just does it for whoever. If you can pay, he'll get it for you. So I think he's gonna be recurring in Phase 4, where he's able to get them stuff or get them, planes and technology and weapons and stuff like that. Because even though I'm pretty sure, and I forget her, I'm pretty sure Pepper will do some stuff, because she has probably all the Tony's, funds and things like that. Or she'll probably help out with some stuff. But she's also now a mom, so she probably won't do as much. So they'll need a guy who can get them stuff. I'm pretty sure Mason will be that person. And clearly him and Black Widow had a thing, but they didn't really touch on that too much in the story. But yeah, so I think Mason will end up being a bigger character. He seemed like very like a minor character, but I think he's just someone who can get them things. And I'm pretty sure Clint might know him, or someone, or Falcon might know him, or something like that, or maybe Bucky might have run into him, and then they'll get in contact with him when they need certain things. Just saying, like if they can't get a hold of, anyone from Wakanda or stuff like that, he'll be the go-to person for them. So yeah, I really enjoyed Black Widow. I think it's solid. It was fun. I think again, it's a fun movie to see. Some of the story could be a little bit different and things like that. I think if it was a little bit earlier in the MCU timeline, it would be better. But it is what it is. We got a Marvel movie next. Because Loki just finished. Loki was amazing. And then the What If series is next for Disney Plus. And then Shang-Chi is the next movie. And then Spider-Man No Way Home is the last movie for 2021. So yeah, Black Widow was solid. I give it like a 7, like a 7 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10. Not perfect. I think it's great. It's a fun movie. It does what it needs to do. I think it would probably be higher up if it fit a little bit better into the MCU timeline because it feels like it's kind of an anomaly. because it's a way to kind of give Scarlett Johansson kind of her send off. And since we haven't really had a Black Widow movie or seen a lot of Black Widows, kind of a way of doing that. But it was solid, and it's that's especially bringing in Florence Pugh's character, her Yolanda Belova, having Red Guardian. That's not Red Guardian, part of the MCU. Some other Black Widows are like good now, so maybe they'll help out with some other missions. Maybe in the Hawkeye series, maybe Yolanda will get some of the Black Widows to help her track down Hawkeye, and maybe we'll get some of that. So yeah, it opens up some things, and that connection to Val from Falcon and Winter Soldier. So now we have that connection between those characters. It's good. It set up some pretty decent things. It was very solid. I definitely enjoyed it. Definitely go out and see it if you want to. You can go out and see it, watch it on Disney Plus, or wait till October and it's gonna be free. So anyway, thanks for checking out this brand new episode of the Aura Podcast. Greatly appreciate it. I know there haven't been a lot of podcasts recently, but I'm trying to get back on my grind, get some more podcasts done. So the podcasts are always on Anchor, and they always pop up on Spotify, and they come to a couple other places. And I always post the podcast on my YouTube channel, SlicingDicingGamingEntertainment, so you can always find the podcast there. Also on the website, SlicingDicingGaming.com, there's the Order Up Podcast section. Click on that. It'll lead you to the Anchor page, and you can find all the episodes of the podcast. So thank you so much for listening. I greatly appreciate it. Always and forever, Slicing, Dicing Gaming. Not just a motto, lifestyle. See you in the next podcast. Later. Later.